So tell me about yourself.
Thank you for giving opportunity, sir. My name is Hariprasad. I recently completed my graduation in Information Technology from MVGR College of Engineering.
Okay.
I specialize in Java full stack with skills of Java, Spring Boot, REST APIs, and MySQL and Spring Security. Based on these skills, I developed some project using Spring Security and Spring Boot, which is IT ticket operating system, where I implemented and which users can create tickets and admin can control tickets, and also implemented real-time comments where user and support can chart by based on tickets, and
Okay,
also
you mentioned authentication, authorization, and JWT.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
So explain about the differences, all three.
Authentication where who is user, like
Okay.
whether it is correct user or not.
Okay.
Where authorization means specific allowance for users. I implemented only by security config filter chain. I for only has role users go to the users pattern.
Okay, you added with the security filter chain also.
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain about security filter chain.
The security filter chain which allows Spring Boot whenever it request comes to the first go to security filter chain, whether user is validate authenticated or not, then go to dispatcher servlet.
Okay.
Then go to controller and resolver and mod.
Okay, in between, right? You mentioned JWT also.
Yes.
So where you use JWT and how we can work with your flow? Can you explain the flow of JWT where it comes to the picture?
JWT means verify tokens. It generates token. Every time we request, it generate token, verify the client.
Okay, for example, if I logged in first time, yes, it is generating a token.
Yes, sir.
For example, if I am clicking the payments button, is it going to generate a new token or it is taking the same token?
Taking the same token. Basically, tokens in client side.
So this process, can we say stateful or stateless?
It is stateless code.
Okay, great. So you mentioned again some vehicle maintenance management, right? What is that vehicle maintenance management project? Vehicle
maintenance project is basically whenever it has vehicle and users, the user have many vehicles. So we can, in order to maintain problem, identify the problem where users cannot maintain the petrol and insurance date. So I implemented the project where user can maintain vehicles by using like how many vehicles they have.
What are the technologies? It's really interesting. Nice application. So what are the technologies used in it?
I use a technology Spring Boot and React for UI.
Okay.
And
explain the difference between Spring versus Spring Boot. And in Spring Boot, what are the annotations used to complete this application?
Where Spring is a framework where we can manage, instead of before we use Java Beans Enterprise. It was very difficult to maintain configuration and it allows tight coupling. We are coming to Spring. It uses annotations based and introduce Spring MVC architecture and also loose coupling. Where Spring Boot is a top of the Spring, it is tool to avoid dependencies. Like every time you have to manage the jar file, so introduce Spring Boot Starter, where you can load the all Spring servers.
What are the Spring Boot starters you used?
I use Spring Boot starters like security and
Spring
JPA.
Boot starter security.
Spring Boot starter.
You should say in such a way that it will be more clear, right?
Yes, sir. Spring Boot starter security. Spring Boot starter JPA. Data JPA. Spring Boot starter web.
Web MVC actually. Earlier it was a web. Nowadays it should be like web MVC.
In that combination of amended servers, all that comes in the starter web MVC.
Okay. What are the tables you created for this application?
We created vehicle one table and users and also service records.
Okay.
So I that mapped in users. One user have many vehicles. One too many. I took relation. And in vehicles have one vehicle have many service records. Okay. So on that time one vehicle has many records. So I use the relationship between the two tables.
Okay, if you are mapping such kind of relation, what are the annotations used in your tables? I mean, in your model.
Yes, I use one-to-many relationship, and both of them in the project have used.
What is meant by join column when we can use?
Whenever you want to, in the table you have generator ID. It says primary by default primary key. When you want to other table to join column, based on that column, we can use that join column.
Okay. So yeah, go on. Continue with this application. What are the annotations more used?
I use it.
I really like this.
The table creation, the relation between database. I use entity table, and that we have ID for primary key and the join column, and for default like data menu. I use enumeration for because enum we can have static variables whenever we want. It does not change. So I use that enumeration for taking the value, and also join column for joining two tables. And for coming to data repository, I use repository. It contains only data source.
It's looking like a DAO layer also you can add. Yeah, go on.
For the service layer, I use @service for business logic, and in service layer it has a combination of handles and @component for creation of beans. And also in coming to controller, I use REST controller to manage whenever the data comes to client. For REST controller, it has basic combination of controller and response body. Where response body use it for whenever for Java it is Java object. So you want to transfer from Java object to JSON value, so you use @response body. For @request body, when coming from the client side, by default it was JSON values that converted to objects. That's why I use it @request body.
Super wonderful. Yeah, go on. Path variable versus @request param differences. Tell me.
Path in the URL we have like IDs. From URL we want to take value, we had @path variable. For request param in the URL, it has a query like question mark after the name equal to something. You want to get the name, we use @request parameter.
Okay. @post mapping, put mapping, patch mapping. Differences about 3.
Yes, so these are HTTP methods that REST controller we have used. @post mapping for to save the values in database, we use @post mapping. Client sends a request to save the values. I use @post mapping. For get mapping from the database, we use @get mapping. And also put mapping was to update the values. I have put mapping. And patch mapping, whenever we want to update specific value in the table, I use patch mapping.
Oh, great. So do we need to really use @delete mapping or?
Yes, sir. I use @delete mapping for.
So you mentioned something like soft deletion also. What is meant by soft deletion?
Soft deletion means by completely deleting the user from the database. So I have used soft deletion like taking one variable active. So for suppose if you want to delete a user, it causes basically an error. For suppose if you want the user rejoins in the organization, so I want to create new user. At that time, I realize and put a variable active. For that, whenever we want to delete the user, taking the value as false, boolean value. So on that time, when I'm deleting for user response, so I have deleted mapping. But in the backend, it was not deleted by using a variable active user false.
It is updating to inactive.
Yes.
Okay.
Based on that, I have issue with that. Whenever I face consequence, whenever update the value for any user at the last and restore the server, all the values by default is false, which means the user is disabled. Whenever you exiting user login, by default it was not authenticating but not redirecting. So I realized that the debug was checking the database whether the user is taking the value is 0. By basically database was 0. For in the Spring it takes boolean value false.
Okay. So you mentioned React also, right? Tell me about React hooks.
React is basically the T project. I worked on backend, so my friend worked on React. I also explore some components.
Okay. Explain the difference between class components and functional components.
By default, it is called class component. It is stateful.
Okay.
For functional component, is stateless. To achieve stateful, you use state effect.
Yes. Okay. Usestate. Can you explain usestate?
Usestate by default, it has a variable and it has a corresponding function.
Okay.
Whenever you want to change the data, you use it to use corresponding function to change the value.
Okay. Great job. Your applications really liked it. So keep continue and all the best.
Thanks.
Yeah.